chose, you're allowed to yell. Sucks. Mine is freaking hell. At least it's yours, you're allowed to yell. I know you think your job sucks. Mine is freaking hell. At least it's yours, you're allowed to yell.
It's time to kick the tires and light the fires. Let's get this show on the road. This is...
Warning.
This show contains mature content. Listener discretion is advised.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
One angry New York City Puerto Rican decided to start a radio show, determined to piss the world off by shoving a mirror in front of society's face. He kicked them in the balls.
What are you? Who are you?
This is the Crotch Shot Radio Show. Crotch Shot Radio Show.
This is not a test. This is a broadcast transmission.
We're going to stay on the air.
And now, the Whippy.
Yo, welcome to the Crotch Shot Radio Show, where we kick the issues in the balls. We are on an active war against bullshit. We would do anything and everything to expose bullshit. The ends sometimes justify the memes. So if you're angry and want the truth exposed, then strap in and prepare to be shocked. Holy shit. If you can't accept that, then fuck off. I'm your host, Louis B. I takes no bullshit from nobody. I actually expose the bullshit of society and chop it up into easy to digest chunks for you. Today won't be any different. Today we're going to be talking about the election. And yeah, hey, we're going to be talking about the election, about the never-ending election. But first, let me introduce my special guest host for the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you statesman, researcher, scholar, a uniter within the patriot movement, one of Antifa's most hated foes. I proudly give to you Gabriel Brown.
Hey, what's happening, Louis?
How are you doing, my friend?
Hanging in there, like everybody else.
Yes, it seems like this shit just won't end. It's just they're dragging this shit out. It's like the Democrats or whoever is behind this, they really don't want Trump to win. They're pulling out every single solitary stop, every trick, every underhanded thing. You have all these dumbasses that are, and they are dumbasses. They're shooting themselves in the foot in order to, to get this socialist utopia. It's fucking amazing.
Oh man, yeah. It's really funny. I mean, this really is a never-ending election.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as we speak, they're still attempting to count, certain unfinished, unaccounted states. They haven't finished doing that. And then you have the situation where they're talking about how they were going to weekly count, ballots a couple of days later.
Yeah.
But we don't know exactly whether or not these ballots came in on the day of the election. They came in 2 days later.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
But they're actually considering that to be acceptable in a way.
Yeah.
Without questioning it. So, yeah, no, I mean, it's really funny. All over Twitter, all over social media, they try to do their best to suppress and censor any voices of opposition to whatever their narrative was. Tried to suppress everybody. They tried to smear everybody, silence them, ban them outright.
Yeah.
Like, you look at what Ford Fisher, he's not allowed to talk until I think the new year on, Facebook. They try to do that. You look at what's going on with the ballot, mail-in ballots. They try to change the rules with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking pretty clear. I mean, the polls were completely wrong. They lie about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to accuse them of lying because at this point, what else can I really conclude if every poll basically got it wrong?
Yeah.
The people were predicting that the information that the polls were putting out was completely inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it turned out to be that was the case, and it was easily predictable.
Yeah.
So you get that going on, and you look at what's been going on in general with the election. Apparently, the Republicans, Trump actually, as much as we don't have an answer what's going on, they actually had made some very good, successful results in certain ways.
Yeah.
So, which, the media didn't want to have happen. And I don't know, everything that's been going on has been a hurdle.
Yeah.
This entire election.
No, it has.
I mean, going back to the beginning of, the last 4 years. And they're still trying to attack Trump. They're saying he doesn't have the right to declare victory, even though, maybe evidence would suggest maybe he has the right to declare that in certain circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. They keep calling him a sore loser, but the thing is, in all actuality, they've effectively been rigging this shit since the beginning. I mean, they had the tech companies in their pocket. I recently got freaking the platform from TikTok, from Facebook, from Instagram, and it's happened to thousands, if not at least millions of other people. They've just been deplatformed for no apparent reason, no explanation, nothing. You just go to log in and you're gone. And it's no surprise that the majority of the people are either conservative, libertarians. They just get kicked off.
America.
Yeah.
And I happen to also be one of these censored individuals. I haven't been able to log into my Facebook since June.
Yeah.
And it's November.
Mm-hmm.
So the account is just disabled. No explanation as to why or how, other than, very vague terms.
Yeah.
Of some kind of rules But that's what we're looking at here.
I mean,
we're looking at
there's obvious manipulate. there's obvious manipulation going on, because they like last night they were calling states early, and there's Biden's numbers are going up without which how come Trump's numbers are not going up? I mean, that's just
well, yeah, you have circumstances where in some cases you don't see Trump's numbers going up at all, which sounds ridiculous. Or in the case of Arizona, it looks like they might have actually, quote unquote, made a mistake and prematurely called that in favor of Biden. When in actuality, it looks like Trump's actually going to possibly win that state, getting delegates. I mean, not electoral votes. So, I heard like he could end up with like 30,000 extra, more votes in his camp than Biden. So why would they even go and say Arizona was going to Biden if well, they said they made a mistake. I think it was New York Times or something. Apparently there's a lot of mistakes going on in this election, if that's all it really is. They're just too foolish at the polls. They couldn't figure out the polls are wrong. They can't figure out how Arizona isn't Biden. They can't figure out anything. The degree of incompetence is remarkable here.
It's almost unfathomable. It's like how can you fuck up this many times? I mean. And this is and this with a lot some people that I've been speaking to that are they're never Trumpers. They're not Trump fans or supporters in any case, and they're like, oh well, isn't it funny that he's worried about the mail-in ballots when it's a problem for him? Like, it's being proven that it's a fucking problem.
It was a problem since day one. We knew it was. It was a problem throughout the entire Democratic primary. I think it was like almost 5 months ago. They couldn't even get it right back then. In fact, there were huge problems with it. I heard I think it was 80,000, Democratic voters were disqualified from their votes in New York primaries for the Democratic Party.
I got a
lot of voters.
Yeah, I mean, I got some comments in the chat room. Lots of Jedi Run, lots of voter fraud going on, but this is nothing new in elections. JFK's father bought his son a victory, not a landslide, but he did not expect his son to turning against all of them and actually try to be a president for the people. And stuttering Chris, he goes, Biden has 264 electoral votes. It's done. Sad face. So.
I don't know about that. I don't think it's entirely done yet until they actually get the count. I mean, isn't the Democrats are all screaming, we want every vote to count. We need them all counting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? The same goes for Republicans.
Yeah.
And except the difference between what we're saying and them is when we want votes to all be counted, we're talking about the ones that were mailed in before the election.
Right.
As crazy as that is, that's like pushing it. But definitely the day of the election. We're not talking about votes that came in after the election.
Right.
Those shouldn't even count. I mean, you missed the deadline. I'm sorry. That should have been an automatic disqualification right there off the bat.
Yeah.
I want every vote counted, but I'm not interested. I mean, how do we know that they're, this stuff wasn't mailed in after the fact? Because, let's think about this. If you see a district where you only need another 10,000 votes, who's to say that these 10,000 votes didn't magically get mailed in the day after the election to be counted? How do we know any of that? We don't.
No, we don't.
Because they're not marking these. They're not postmarking when these things are mailed in.
No.
From what I understand, and,
No, and
that's absolutely crazy.
And this is the thing. I mean, I was watching Crowther stream last night, and one of the points he made was most of the Republicans didn't mail in their shit. They wait online, like I did. I voted early, and I waited online because I was not going to trust that my vote was going to be counted if I mailed it in. And it would have been mailed in. It would have been mailed in on time, but I don't trust it because I mean you've I've seen the videos. You've probably seen the videos. Republican or ballots that have that were Trump voting, that were leaning that were voting for Trump, were casted for Trump, were being misplaced or destroyed.
We'll put quotes on that.
Yeah, I did.
Because the comedies,
yeah,
the comedy alone is just beyond laughter.
Yeah,
but yeah, of course. I'll put it this way: I worked the election polls,
mm-hmm.
and
you worked the polls?
I did that this election.
Yeah,
because I figured what better way to safeguard the republic than to see directly what's happening with the votes in person.
Right.
So. As an election worker
mm-hmm.
this year for the presidential, I was supposed to receive in the mail information from the Board of Elections as to what poll I'm working at and all that craziness.
Right.
Well, I'm still waiting for that information to come in the mail because it has never showed up to my door. And when I called the Board of Election, not once, but on several occasions, they had informed me that they mailed it out 2 weeks earlier.
Huh.
And then I asked them to, mail it out again, and they said they would, and then another 2 weeks, passed, and I still never received my information from the Board of Elections.
Right.
I don't know what reason that's happening. I can only speculate that, maybe the Postal Service is suppressing information. I can only speculate that that's the case.
Well, I mean,
that's worst case scenario. At best case, the post office is incompetent and can't actually deliver my mail. Now, if they can't deliver important information on what poll I'm working at, the entire time I requested, not once, but on several occasions,
mm-hmm.
why would I trust them to mail my ballot to the Board of Elections in a safe way? Why would I trust them to do that if they couldn't even send me proper information on the polls that I would be working at? I think that's a logical, reasonable question to ask.
Yeah. I mean, I especially when you have the Postmaster General supporting a particular, endorsing a particular candidate. It's no, I'm sorry. I wouldn't trust it if he just supported Trump, because honestly, if I want to win the correct way, I want to win clean, so that way it proves to the other side that we are better than them. I mean, lack of a better term.
I understand. I mean, that's one of my criticisms of the mail-in ballots has to do with the fact that the unions within the Postal Service
mm-hmm.
had actually endorsed the candidate.
Oh yeah.
And I don't believe that somebody, a group of people that handle your mail
mm-hmm.
should have should be endorsing either candidate or any candidate for that matter, because again, they are handling your votes, your mail. Well, it's not the same deal as the Carpenters Union endorsing, a presidential figure, because the difference is those groups of people are not handling your votes. They're handling your mail. They can't magically just not make it to the Board of Elections to be accounted.
Yeah, I mean,
these people are in control of that, and that's concerning to me.
Yeah, I mean,
even if it was the guy I support.
Yeah, I mean, last night I was talking to someone after late night, and they were telling me that they were basically speculating that they probably were holding off on the count to prevent riots, but look what happens. I mean, you got some of my brothers in D.C. getting stabbed up. I mean, there were plenty.
Yeah.
There were hundreds of demonstrations going on here in New York already. It's like, you know, I'm sorry. You know, I would rather have to deal with the shit with Trump in office than with Biden in office, because at least there will be some measure of protection, or you know, able to some form of accountability.
Well,
you know, like,
I could touch on two of those points for you, and I'll put this point forth.
Yeah.
Now, again, with these mail-in ballots, I think here's the deal. What happened? The Democrats knew the mail-in ballots were going to be a flawed, major problem.
Right.
And I'm convinced they still told their voter base to, you know, mail them in, because they know that their voter base is low information voters who don't really see the bigger picture. They don't have enough information to work with.
Mm-hmm.
They were convinced that the coronavirus was going to be out to kill everybody.
Yeah.
So they were scared to go vote by mail.
Right.
Now, what the problem is, a lot of these people, I guess, for whatever reason, are neurotic and hypochondriacs, because they were actually, you know, washing these ballots in soap and water to disinfect, if I remember correctly, to disinfect their ballots, which at the same time is totally ruining them.
Well,
and what would happen is they would mail these things in, they end up showing up, and they get disqualified.
Yeah.
Because they're ruined.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the other information is they actually didn't properly fill out the paperwork, or they didn't place their ballot in the separate envelope that you're supposed to put it in, which then you put in the main envelope that is supposed to be sealed. People didn't know that, so their ballots were completely disqualified.
Yeah, I mean,
going
along with that, I have a video from you know, that was Rudy Giuliani was in Philadelphia earlier today, and he had like a little discussion. If I could play that real quick.
Sure.
Let me point the camera to the share the screen.
It is very, very sad that we're here in the city that's really the birthplace of our democracy, and this is among one of the most anti-democratic things I've ever seen or encountered. And it's not just here in Philadelphia. This is going on all over the country. We have filed a lawsuit. The lawsuit actually required that when these mail-in ballots that you know are highly suspicious anyway, this form of balloting has always been considered the most prone to fraud. That's according to the New York Times when it didn't apply to candidate President Trump. Well, we were supposed to be allowed by law to observe the counting of the ballots. Now, observe means, to any intelligent person, being able to look at it. The way it's interpreted by the Democrat crooked machine of Philadelphia is that the observers can be 20 or 30 feet away, never able to see the ballot itself, never able to see if it was properly postmarked, properly addressed, properly signed on the outside. All the things that often lead to disqualification of ballots or make it very easy to dump 50,000 totally fraudulent ballots because they're not observed. This went on for 20 hours. While all of you thought there was some kind of legitimate count going on here in Philadelphia, it was totally illegitimate. So we went back to court, and we went before a Democrat judge. No need to tell you what the result in Philadelphia is if you're before a Democrat judge. Obviously a political hack who doesn't know the meaning of the word observe. Observe means to be able to look. Not a single Republican has been able to look at any one of these mail ballots. They could be from Mars, as far as we're concerned, or they could be from the Democratic National Committee. Joe Biden could have voted 50 times, as far as we know, or 5,000 times. The ballots could be from Camden. Philadelphia, unfortunately, and I would say this about my own city, has a reputation for voter fraud. You have a reputation for dead people voting, and we're going to go look at just how many dead people voted here. I didn't think we'd have to do that, but we will. And you have a reputation for people being bussed in from Camden voting here. Wouldn't be the first time that happened. But this goes way beyond any of that. And let me also add that this isn't happening just here. We have exactly the same lawsuit in Wisconsin, where exactly the same thing happened. Except in Wisconsin, mysteriously at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, about 120,000 ballots appeared. Oh, here come these ballots. Well, we have no idea if they really are ballots. We have no idea if they're signed, if they're postmarked properly, if it isn't just the same person who submitted 100,000 ballots, and they all got counted. This is the way they intend to win. Now I'm informed by former Congressman Sweeney, who's been going around the country and collecting this information, that similar situation in Arizona, similar situation in Nevada, and a similar situation, what am I missing, John? Where are you? In Michigan, in Detroit, Michigan. Again, let me be specific what it is. This whole new thing that never happened before in our country, these mail-in ballots, which has been a cause of real concern for everyone because they can easily be fraudulent. Well, one of the things that the law attaches to that is the right for both parties to observe the ballot, the way we do with absentee ballots. You make certain it's properly signed. On the outside, there's a signature. You make sure that it's properly postmarked. You make sure that it's properly addressed, and then you pass on it. A number of these are often challenged by the Democrat representative or the Republican representative. We never got a chance to look at a single one of them. The gentleman here who did this for us says about 100,000 ballots went through that process in the 20-plus hours in which they wasted his time by not allowing him to see a single ballot. Well, that's 120,000 ballots that should just be taken out of the count. So you want to look at that number, that 120,000 should come out. And this is an area in which Biden is getting 60, 70% of the vote. I don't know if this is going on any other place, but it is going on in enough frequency in Wisconsin that we've brought suit, and now we'll have to look into 3 other places. What it says to me is this is a concerted effort of the crooks that run the Democrat Party. And you know these big city machines are crooked. You know that. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years of one-party rule leads to corruption of all kinds. Voter fraud is one of the biggest because that's how you keep your power. But we're not going to let them get away with it. They're not going to steal this election. This election gets decided by the people. These people, the elite, they don't care about the people. The people are the deplorables, the chumps. They're not important. To President Trump, he's the whole reason that he ran for office. And he's the whole reason for which he's carrying on this campaign, so that your vote can mean something, so that your vote doesn't get wiped out by 100,000 fraudulent, meaningless paper ballots that no one gets to observe. So we are going to continue the lawsuit here. We're going to bring a second one, and then we're going to bring a federal lawsuit. And we're going to take a very good look at whether we bring this nationally. We certainly are going to bring it here and in Wisconsin. Quite possibly we'll do a national lawsuit and really expose the corruption of the Democrat Party. But this is beyond anything I've ever seen before. This comes when you think you have so much power and you own the media that you can do anything you want. Well, sorry. We're going to fight for the people. We're going to vindicate their right. And the ultimate result is President Trump has won Pennsylvania. I've never heard of a count where you're ahead by 400,000 with 80+% counted, and they haven't called it for you yet. They called California the moment the polls closed. How many votes do you have to be ahead to win, for a Republican to win here? How many votes do we have to be ahead? 400,000 is not enough? With 80+% counted, I think there's only 14% of the vote to go. Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools? You know something? The Democrats do think you're stupid, and they do think you're fools, and that's why you get called deplorable and chumps. It's over. We're going to stick with this. We're going to win this election. We've actually won it. Just a matter of counting the votes fairly.
Yep.
Well, there's so much to go through there, and I'm going to continue this earlier point that I wanted to point out before we get into the whole fraud question.
Yeah.
Because what I'm bringing up, we're not even talking fraud. We're just talking incompetence here.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party I believe they're convinced that their voter base is incompetent voters, that they're low information voters, that they're dumb idiots, and they actually encourage them to vote in a manner which they knew their ballots were going to end up getting disqualified, so they're not going to properly do it right. I heard stories they were microwaving their ballots. That's how paranoid they were of the coronavirus, getting them through paper. So let's just say like, all these ballots are mailed in, they get disqualified. Well, if you think about it, they get to blame Trump that these votes didn't get counted, even though the reality is the voters themselves disqualified their own ballots. And so that's on just the non-fraud element. And I think the Democrats knew that this was going to happen because they're going to turn around and they're going to tell their voter base, which again is low information people, that it's Trump's fault that their ballots didn't count, even though they didn't properly fill them out, even though they disqualified themselves rather than showing up in person. So that's the angle. That doesn't necessarily have to be voter fraud. That's just voter incompetence. Now they're going to turn around and blame Trump for that, even though they're the ones who did it to themselves. Now that's without voter fraud. Now on the voter fraud end, the clip that you played makes very valid points. And again, I'm going to use my personal experience as a poll worker. I worked the polls this election and several others. And the way it works, at least from where I work, you have both parties sign off. And when it comes to in-person voting, the way it works is this: you show up to the poll, the voter, and when you go to the table, you're going to have both a Democrat and Republican bipartisan watch the voter come in. They got to go for the database to find their name. I watch the other guy, they watch me. We sign off on it. They check to make sure the signature is accurate. We check to make sure the address is accurate. We don't actually ID the voters, but we ask them basic questions, and we try to match. If they've continuously voted in the past, we check to see if their signatures match the previous votes. So there are a lot of safety nets that we use to make sure that it's done legitimate. And if we want, we can contest the person who's trying to place a ballot. If there's something fishy, we can contest that. But either way, it's a bipartisan team that looks at this. We sign off, we give them the ballot, and they have to put it in the box. Now, if they mess up, they have to spoil the ballot. Then they bring the ballot over. We ask that person with the ballot to stamp it themselves, and we have them put it in a bag themselves to make sure that ballot is not to be counted. And we give them a brand new ballot, and they place it in the box. There's a whole system to make sure that there can't be fraud, other than maybe the Diebold machines, which that's a whole other subject. That's where the real fraud would be conducted. But we make sure that everything is done properly. And from that clip that you're telling me, they're not letting the bipartisan team look at these ballots that are getting mailed in. That is something I would be very highly suspicious of as a worker, because they tell you specifically, at least when we're doing it in person, you got to make sure that everybody is like bipartisan. In fact, when it comes to taking machines at night, when we're finished with the polls and you're taking apart the machines, a bipartisan team has to not only take the machine apart together, but they read off the specific numbers. They actually have to tag each locked area with the zip ties, and they have to read the serial number to make sure that that serial number is accurate to whatever they log down. And both Democrat and Republicans are required to monitor each other while doing this as a bipartisan team, just to make sure there isn't any kind of discrepancies or questions.
Right.
And so everything I'm hearing in that clip, if that's all true, and I have no reason to suspect it's not true, that just sounds like all sorts of red flags right there. As a poll worker, I would not accept that.
Yeah.
To do that, just because I know the ramifications of not doing it as a bipartisan team.
Right. In fact, to go along with that, Project Veritas, they put out a video back in October 16th called "Tampering with Reality." Facebook fact check sites USA Today hit piece on Veritas, where basically they were talking about the what'd you call it? No, wrong one. Wrong video. They did a video where they were exposing the voter fraud, the ballot fraud. Here it goes. Ballot chaser reveals massive voter fraud. Let me play this quick. This clip. This will go along with the speech by Giuliani. Share my screen. Expand it.
Earlier this week, we introduced you to Raquel Rodriguez and her illegal election law activities in San Antonio, Texas. Well, there is more. Listen carefully as she tells our undercover journalist the cost of buying votes.
I've got 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and the rest are Democrats.
Okay.
So, how much money are we talking? Because just so you'll know, when you do things like this for votes, you're talking between $5 to $8 per vote. I'm just letting you know, so you have an idea. And I'm going to bring $3,500 to the plate,
okay,
countywide. So I know what I'm bringing to the plate countywide. So that's like $28,000.
Like model right now. He said, "Okay, Raquel, if you were running, what would you do?" So he sat me down and I said, "I would do this, 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 and this." He said, "How much money do you think you would need?" And I budgeted everything, right? Okay, boom, you do it. So he was paying me $5,000 a month, and now he's paying me $8,000 a month. Why? Because I took in this extra job.
So between you and me, I've got 4 judges that are calling me right now. This is what they're asking me. And they're like, "We want to be a part of this group. So if we pay you $3,500 each, that's like $12,000, dude." So those 3 judges that I'm talking about, and that's Renee Yanta, Nicole Garza, right? They're paying me $3,500, to make sure that their name is on the ballot.
How much could the city council race cost?
I gave you my total.
It's in there?
It's $5,000 a month for me, $8,000 for Tom.
Yep, $8,000 a month.
$8,000 for our 2
How many months will it go through?
7.
You think 56,000?
Probably.
That's
and then 2 months and 2 months of early voting. 2 months of early voting is my people's 5 to 7.
Cash.
Yeah.
Texas law under Texas election code, it is illegal to harvest ballots. It is also illegal to pay others to ballot harvest. Ballot harvesting is a felony if done with 3 or more people.
When we asked about buying votes for U.S. Senate candidate M.J. Hagar and candidate Biden, here's what she had to say.
We look at the top of the ticket to get votes for either Biden. How many votes do you think you can deliver for us?
At least 5,000.
And what are we looking at as far as how much that's going to cost?
For the entire team that I'm looking at $55,000.
So $55,000 for 5,000 votes, top of the ticket, eager, Biden.
If not more. I'm not going to overpromise, because remember, we're 16 days till election day. You can give me cash, you can do whatever you want to do.
$55,000 up front, 5,000 votes.
That's right.
Cash.
Cash. Yeah, I'm getting the Biden vote out, but I mean, I'm not going to do it for free. In other words, if they don't pay me, I'm like, excuse me, I don't. That's another worry I don't have to worry about.
You said it was like $5 or $8 per vote. How many votes? I mean, how much are we looking at roughly?
Shoot, you know what? It's $8 per vote, but I would say like right now, I'd say $5 to $6. Let's say $6 per vote.
Okay.
Let's not go $8. Okay. Let's say 6 votes, $6 per vote,
okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to bring you 5,000 votes.
5,000.
5,000 votes. That's county-wide.
Right.
5,000 votes could swing the entire state.
Of course it can.
What would you think about President Trump? He's always complaining, right? And then imagine if you could swing Texas.
I know.
It's a real reality.
It's a real reality.
We understand the Biden eager 5,000 votes, $55,000 cash for you. We understand that.
Quit saying that. Yeah, we know the numbers.
You're making him.
Making me nervous.
Making you nervous.
Buying votes is illegal under both federal and Texas law.
Our journalist asked Rodriguez, what is the going rate to get her help to get a candidate elected to a city council seat or a judgeship?
So roughly for the city council race for 21, we're looking...
Okay, so 5,000, 3,000, 8,000 times 7 months. That's 56,000.
Well, you get the point. I mean...
Yeah, of course I get the point. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this is the shits that's going on. Yet when Trump talks about it, when Trump is pissed off about it, oh well, it's because you're gonna lose. Like, what if your message is so strong? Get them, do it fairly. But hey,
they don't need to cheat if it's such a strong, powerful message.
Exactly.
They're going to naturally win in the free marketplace of ideas. Now, I'm going to tell you, if any of these people on video actually work polls or, are employees of the Board of Elections, they're an absolute and total disgrace to the American people.
Oh, yeah.
And they should be prosecuted as far as I'm concerned because, look, when I became a board, when I started working the polls, I had to go through a basic training course. You have to be certified to do that. You can't just show up and do it without any kind of knowledge on what you're doing. No, you go to a training course. They pay you to do that, and you get it. In my case, for the general election, I got a certificate for certification. So I take it very serious to make sure that our elections are protected. Because I think it's part of a civic duty to, ensure that we have, safe elections where our votes count. There's something called electioneering. Like, poll workers are not allowed to influence the political position of a person casting a ballot.
Right.
And when we work. So, people show up, you don't talk about politics to them, you just help them understand how to properly cast a ballot, regardless of your personal politics, and you let the person do that.
Yeah.
And, nobody is allowed to be within 100 feet of a polling station with any kind of electioneering, with paraphernalia or, anything. It has to remain neutral at all costs. So when I hear these people trying to harvest ballots and, do all this stuff and really cheat the American people out of their votes, it's an absolute and total disgrace, in my opinion, as somebody who does work these polls. I work it for the right reasons because I care about the republic and the right of the people to have a voice in fair and sound elections. And honestly, so is it possible to have fraud? For sure. But, where I'm on the ground level, at least where I'm at, we make sure fraud doesn't get conducted. But these people are obviously, from what, the clip you played, not just the Project Veritas, but the other clip, there's obviously some questionable behavior going on if this is how things are being conducted.
Well, there's another clip
That's not how things are being conducted where I work.
Yeah, I mean, there's another clip by Project Veritas. I couldn't find it in time. But they actually... more ballot harvesting was going on in Ilhan Omar's district. She was actually buying ballots. Like, she was having people buy ballots for her so that way they could vote for Biden. In fact,
I'm not shocked by that
in fact,
at all.
Yeah. In fact, I got
heard
this
stories of that.
Yeah, we got this article here from Gateway Pundit. While the steal is on with last night's ballot dump, Wisconsin has 88% voter turnout or higher. It's either an impossible new record or it's horseshit. President Trump outperformed 2016 totals in Wisconsin by 200,000 votes. That's a massive number. It was a huge victory for President Trump in Wisconsin. Overwhelming. Overnight, Joe Biden crept to a lead in Wisconsin, but one internet sleuth showed that this was due to fraud. This is a Twitter pic. Let me see. Zoom in. Let me go to the Twitter pic. The twit pic. This tweet is from a suspended account. Oh, really? Okay, so they got the tweet here. Let me see if I could zoom in. Total presidential votes for each party so far, with 89% of the Wisconsin expected vote counted as of 6/23. Brown and Kenosha counties are still counting as of today, November 4th. Wow. So yeah, no, like honestly, they deleted the account with that twit pic. I mean, if that's not tech censorship, like I don't know what is. I mean, they should be brought up on charges for that. This is.
I would argue what they're doing on a at least a national scale is electioneering.
Yeah, it is.
You know, to an extent, because they're actually trying to a vast degree influence a single side of the political spectrum to be able to have a voice while suppressing and silencing the opposition, so that they have zero voice to even, especially address anything that's going on in the election.
Yeah.
If they see some kind of chicanery. They did this to Trump, they're doing it to others. And I'm going to tell you, like I said, these people are an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
To everything that goes with having a free election.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like this. Like, honestly, it's because of hearing about so much fraud for so many years. It pushed me to go try to become a poll watcher, so I could become somebody who actually tries to do it right. Make sure that you're not a poll watcher, but a poll worker. So we could I could see if stuff like that's going on at the ground level. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, there was a documentary called Hacking Democracy that was on HBO well over a decade ago that talked about the electronic voting boxes and how they can be tampered with internally with the software.
Yeah.
And you might not even know that the software is being tampered with. And that's a whole other subject that's worth. I just want to put that out there so people haven't heard of this. They should look into it. Just do further research to understand this could happen. But things like that encouraged me to want to be a poll worker during elections so that I can make sure that, if I ever notice stuff like this, I'm aware that it happens. And if more people are aware of these things, we might be able to prevent such kind of fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds absolutely insane. I could totally see this type of stuff happening in New York City, possibly.
Yeah.
Just because it's so heavily controlled. I could see, Omar, whatever her name is. Yeah. I am not shocked by hearing any of that stuff in the video that, exposed all that. These people are crooked. And, just look at how they're silencing and suppressing one side of the political aisle on social media, where they can't even call this stuff out, so that people who are not awake to it, they don't get the information that the elections are being cheated on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see these stories where they want to count ballots to the extent where it's not bipartisan, and it's done after the election.
Right.
I mean, this is just, there's so many red flags in this. That why are they trying to do this if they care about winning in a legitimate fashion? This is like the equivalent of playing rock paper scissors. You get paper. I get scissors, and then all of a sudden you decided that paper beats scissors at the last minute. You changed the rules. As one friend of mine put it correctly, moving the goalpost.
Yeah.
And they're not doing this legitimately. They're doing it in a fraudulent way. And it's clear. The evidence is, overwhelmingly clear that there's something not right going on with this election at all. And it should be questioned by everybody. I think that Trump needs to use his abilities to lock this in the court system and have this challenged immediately before these people do count these ballots
that's exactly what he's doing.
Post-election.
That's exactly what he's doing. He's already like, enough's enough. I mean, I'm glad he's actually fighting. I'm glad he's not.
He better.
Yeah, like, I'm glad he's not gonna concede, and I hope that means, I'm really hoping and praying and wishing and all that this will lead to a lot of arrests. It has to. It has to lead to plenty of arrests, and perhaps maybe to teach the DNC a lesson, a class action lawsuit.
I mean, lawsuits need to be filed. If not, if there's like actual legitimate fraud that can be proven, all those people need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Exactly.
And they absolutely should be put away for tampering with our elections.
I mean,
these media pundits, these pollsters, all of them should be fired from their jobs for projecting completely false information to the public.
I mean,
my dad.
I mean, speaking about the people that are involved with any fraud when it comes to the votes, exclude just them. I would argue. I mean, and mind you, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not well versed in the law, but just from a layman's perspective, I kind of believe that this could be viewed as treason.
Well, if you want to take it to that level, perhaps you could make that case if there's evidence to prove that these individuals were conspiring with other insidious forces to manipulate elections. I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realm of impossibility. I mean, certainly that is the argument and the case that the authoritarian left attempted to make with Donald Trump, claiming that Russia tampered with our elections in the 2016 election. They went and made that case, and it proved to be nothing at the end, which we knew it would be nothing.
Yeah, I got some more.
They actually might be doing that themselves, not in Russia, but you know what I'm saying. There might be a tampering effort here on their part.
Yeah, I mean, I got plenty of articles here. This is oh god, the freaking whitelist. Okay, I gotta fucking turn off the damn the ad block for this. God, just let me block the fucking ads, man. They just overwhelmed the shit with the ads. Claim that Sharpie pens ruin Arizona ballot misses the mark. In fact, this is what Steven Crowder was reporting this morning. That in Arizona they were making people fill out the ballots with Sharpie pens, which fucked up the scanning or the Scantron.
Why
sheets.
would they do that? I mean, let me tell you something here.
Yeah.
When we came to our polling station,
we
didn't use Sharpies. We used regular, black ink pens, the kind you buy, from Vicks. In fact, we had boxes and boxes of those that we provided free to the people voting. They got to keep the pen. So we didn't use Sharpies. I don't understand why Sharpies would be. We used regular pens that you would expect to use.
Yeah.
The kind that were traditionally the ink would be used when we did have it tied down to the privacy booth. So why would Sharpies be given out? That's crazy to me. That sounds like a more expensive writing tool to begin with.
Yeah,
and
in fact,
from what you're telling me, this stuff is actually damaging the technology that reads it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
In fact, someone that called into Steven Crowder's show, I was watching all 4 hours this morning. That there was a lady that she had to sneak a pen in because they were taking people's pens out of their hands and throwing it in the trash and giving them the fucking Sharpie.
That sounds so shady because actually at our polling booth, people brought their own pens, and the only thing we had to tell them was, look, if you have your own pen, make sure the ink is not blue. It has to be black,
right,
or it won't read. If it's blue, it does, for whatever reason, it doesn't read it properly. But when it's black, it will. So we didn't bar anybody from bringing their own pens. If they brought them in, we allowed them the right to use it. We just warned them that, look, if you're going to use it, make sure it's black inked. And we had them check beforehand, and they cast their ballots when it was correct. So this whole story you're telling me just sounds really shady.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Who's running this poll station where they would force people not to have the right to use their own pens, let alone the proper equipment, proper pen to write in these ballots?
Yeah.
That's insane to me. Why people gotta get involved?
Yeah, I mean, this next article from PJ Media: Nevada won't announce any more election results until Thursday. There's a story from the 1960 presidential campaign, maybe apocalyptical, that early Wednesday morning after the voting, the race had come down to two states, Illinois and Texas. Lindsey Johnson assured Kennedy that Texas was in the bag because Democrats controlled most of the remaining counties that had not reported election results. But Kennedy was trailing in Illinois and had his campaign manager, his brother Bobby, ring up Mayor Richard Daley in Chicago. Bobby explained the situation to him, and Daley knew exactly what the brother wanted. "How many votes do you need, Bobby?" Daley reportedly asked. It became known as the Night of the Living Dead, as an investigation by an enterprising journalist later found hundreds of ballots cast by people who had died. Daley found other ways to steal the votes. In truth, downstate Illinois GOP bosses were just as good at stealing votes as Chicago. On election night, they played a cat and mouse game with Daley, trying to get the mayor to commit the balance of the vote totals before they did so that they could steal the election. So let me scroll down here. The Trump campaign fought tooth and nail against the idea of sending actual legal ballots through the mail for obvious reasons. Delaying and the release of voting totals is suspicious even in this day and age. But if you're not interested in ballot integrity, anything becomes possible. How many votes do you need, Joe?
I mean, there's another thing I can bring up as a poll worker.
Mm-hmm.
They do talk about the in the training that people can report that if their loved ones are deceased, if you report them to the Board of Election if they passed away, they could take them off the roster.
Yeah.
It's actually encouraged that people remove names from the roster that are of deceased people. They have to go through a whole process to put that information in. So the people who are counting dead people and putting Sharpies in, these sound like absolutely horrible workers.
Oh yeah.
The board, people who got in that had no business counting their votes, let alone working at the polls or being involved with the elections at all. This is just disgraceful. On so many levels that these people exist. And it's really, this is absolutely crazy. and people need to take that into account. That I mean, you have voter fraud, but then you have election fraud. They're two separate things. Voter fraud is when you do it from the outside, if I remember correctly, and election fraud is internal. And I mean, if these things are being done in this election, which I suspect they are,
right?
At least elsewhere, it wasn't being done at the district that I was at, because I gotta tell you, to the credit of all the workers that I was with, everybody on both sides of the aisle worked together just fine. We didn't try to do anything crazy. We worked fine. We had no problems where I was working. But obviously, in other districts, it sounds like there's some real corruption going on at these election polls.
Yeah.
And that is a major issue that needs to certainly be further investigated by the public.
Yeah.
As to why these things are going on. I had to mention this too. I believe the Democrats attempted to change the rules earlier, like just a couple months ago, when they were trying to pass stimulus bills to provide relief to the American people for coronavirus, in compensation of money. The Democrats tried to provide provisions into the bill which would actually not require mail-in ballots to have the signatures, where they could just accept it without even being cross-referenced. So, I mean, right there, that should raise all sorts of red flags. That you wouldn't even cross-examine the signatures. How do we know that, like, Joe Blow across the street wasn't going into people's mailbox, stealing their ballots, and filling them out like 20 times and mailing it in if they wouldn't have to have their signature verified?
Yeah, no, exactly.
They actually tried to push for this provision where you wouldn't have to verify. That's absolutely insane that they would try to do this. And so, do I think that the potential of fraud exists? Well, I mean, what am I supposed to think if your party is literally trying to make it so that we don't even have any real way to validate or verify whether or not these ballots are legitimate? I mean, what am I supposed to think? I think I should think that there's a reason to red flag this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And question it.
Totally. In fact, let me read this next article here. I mean, there's like, I can't see how he can't win because there's so many cases. Officials cover windows at Detroit's absentee ballot counting center. This is by rumble.com. It's a video. They're putting up cardboard so people can't see them counting. Yeah. So it was a video of them. They were covering the windows. Here's another article from the Western Journal. Discovery of Arizona data error suddenly throws early calls for Biden into question. A discrepancy discovered in polling data reported Wednesday morning may have just invalidated early attempts to call the state of Arizona for the 2020 presidential nominee Joe Biden. According to the New York Times breaking news editor Patrick LaForge, the exit polling firm Edison Media Research, Inc. mistakenly overestimated the number of precincts reporting from the state Wednesday, leading to numerous prominent establishment media outlets to publish the election maps with exaggerated confidence in the Joe Biden lead. An error was found in the data feed from the Edison research used by New York Times and other news organizations for Arizona's results. 86% of the ballots have been counted, not 98%, LaForge announced on Twitter. New York Times has not called the state for Biden, though he still leads. Real-time maps and data reports are currently made available by outlets which, like the Times, rely heavily on Edison research and have since been edited to reflect the less complete vote count, though it did take time for the error to be rectified.
Now, my question is this: is these people cardboarding windows of these facilities? Is there even a bipartisan team in that room?
It doesn't
when
say.
they're counting these votes.
It does not.
Do we even know whether that's the case?
It doesn't say.
That's crazy to me. I think that should be the first question.
Yeah.
If they're going to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I understand you don't want the public to see people's votes. You don't want us to use casting those votes to a certain, degree for, privacy issues.
Yeah.
But I want to know if that room has a partisan team ensuring the safeguarding of those votes is there, or if that's not the case, that's something the public should know. That's something that shouldn't be confidential. That should be, public knowledge right off the bat. So, that sounds absolutely crazy. Even when it comes to like poll watchers and the media, there are certain rules that they have to follow when they show up to a poll. Like the media can't just go in and start taking pictures of people voting in the at the booth,
right?
Because of privacy purposes, you don't want the information coming out as to which way these people are voting.
Right.
That is absolutely forbidden. You can, however, do reporting. You can be a poll watcher and just examine. You can't just look at like what they're doing. You can't go up to one of the people that are casting a ballot and start quote unquote helping them. That's a no-no. They actually have, like I said, there's a whole training packet that explains the explicit rules on what poll watchers are allowed to do and what media apparatus is allowed to do and what poll workers are allowed to do. And if none of this stuff is being followed by guidelines, I don't know if the guidelines are the same everywhere, but certainly where I'm from, if you don't follow these certain guidelines, that's a problem. And I don't know if, for example, they're doing that in Arizona because I don't know who's counting these ballots or even examining them. And that should be, these are things that are reasonable questions to ask, especially when they're calling the state early, prematurely.
Right.
So, how could they make that mistake? How is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently it was. And if that's the case, then, I think further scrutiny is necessary at the public end, as well as the current presidential end. So, there's evidence here that this election is potentially being tampered, if it's not directly being tampered with by the outside forces. There's no question about that. Based on everything you've been reading so far and pointing out. And, people should be aware of this information. But, of course, Twitter is censoring information about this. The social media in general is. They're trying to prevent Donald Trump from putting out information to the public about, election tampering.
Yeah.
Whereas, like Joe Biden, he can do whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants, and just so can his pundits.
Yeah.
I think it was I forget which person, I think in Pennsylvania, it might have been the Attorney General, saying that, Trump's not going to win. And that's before the votes were even casted. And he's not supposed to do that. But it doesn't matter. These people do what they want, apparently. And the media protects them.
Yeah.
And, it's insane to me. So, But are there any other news articles or clips regarding this topic that you wanted to present?
We got a whole shit ton of articles. I'm going through Parler right now, and I'm finding this. Let me go through. Let me switch share screens.
The platform,
again.
at least, it's not censored.
Yeah,
so you can actually get information.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like totally. I mean, if you guys want to follow me on Parler, I just search for Louis B on Parler. I'm at Louis B on Parler. There we go. That's it. Oh, that actually reminds me that I passed by. I actually got a call from Mercedes Carrero from jail the other day. They're not giving her pens to fill out her absentee ballot.
So she's being denied voting rights.
Exactly.
And, here's my question. I forget the answer to this.
Yeah.
Was she actually convicted of a crime?
No, not yet.
Or is she just being held there?
She's just being held.
So isn't she innocent until proven guilty?
Exactly.
So if she's innocent, and shouldn't she be provided the right to cast her ballot?
Exactly.
Being that she hasn't been convicted of a crime necessarily, even though she's being held. And I feel like indefinite until, further notice.
Yeah, I mean, she wants to vote. She wanted to vote for Trump, but they said you could only fill out the ballot with pencil.
I don't think that actually works. I don't think you can fill out your ballot with pencil.
No.
So that's just, well, first of all, I think they could have made provisions where they let her fill out a ballot, in pen, but they monitor to the except I can't even speak right now. The point is they monitor her to the extent where, she's obviously not a danger to herself or others, if that's what their concern is.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, she'd be forced to give back the pen.
Yeah.
But they should have at least allowed her the right to cast the ballot, especially if she hasn't been convicted of a crime.
Exactly.
Where she has a legal right and is entitled the right to vote. I don't know what to deal with people in prison, whether convicted or not. I obviously I know that, convicted felons, I don't believe they have the right to vote. But if she's not a felon, I don't know what the rules are, but why she wouldn't be allowed to vote if she's not a convicted felon.
Well, I mean, they're giving
I
her.
think
They're
it
giving
sounds like
her.
she was denied the right to cast her, vote.
Yeah, properly. She wasn't allowed a pen. They said you could fill it out in pencil. So she was denied a pen, so that way she could properly vote.
So if she maybe I don't know. Maybe when she gets out of, if she could beat all these charges in the long run, maybe maybe there's she has a right to litigation over this because she was denied the right to cast her ballot.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully
she might. Maybe she has a lawsuit on her hands. I don't really know.
Yeah, hopefully.
But that would be interesting if she could not only prove her innocence, but because she was proven to be innocent, that she was denied the right to vote. Maybe she had a lawsuit on hand. I don't know. They might have screwed up.
Yeah. This next article is from Breitbart. Trump campaign lawsuit claims lack of access to Michigan counting locations. The Trump campaign announced a decision Wednesday to file a lawsuit to pause counting votes in Michigan. President Trump campaign has not been provided with meaningful access to the numerous counting locations to observe the opening of ballots and the counting process as guaranteed by Michigan law. Trump 2020 campaign manager Bill Stephan has said in a statement. Trump campaign communications director Tim Murtaugh shared a video of Trump ballot canvasser in Detroit getting ejected from their precincts. The steel is on, he wrote. And the Trump challengers being ejected from the ballot canvassing in Detroit. Here's a video. Twitter video, hopefully. Oh, okay. Wow, it's still up. Oh, okay. It's buffering. Buffering. It's boofering, if you will. Follow me at LouisB1 on Twitter. While I'm still there. But
yep.
Parlor at Louis B is more advantageous. Still buffering. Still fucking buffering.
How convenient.
Still fucking buffering. Motherfucker. Okay. All right.
Republican challengers out of this room.
All the Republican challengers out of this room. Okay, as a ballot worker, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's my question. Now, who are these challengers? Are they running for the state?
No, this is for Trump. Trump challengers, Trump Republican challengers to observe the counting of the ballots.
Are these just regular? These people are not running for office, correct?
Correct.
So they're just regular, Joe Sixpack who decided to be a poll watcher.
Pretty much.
And they're being told they can't be there.
Yes.
I don't think that sounds correct to me. I think you're allowed to be at a poll. You can't electioneer at a poll as a poll watcher, but you're allowed to be there. They can't just eject you. I mean, they have to have a reason to legitimately eject you from the poll station. Now, if these people are electioneering, that would be one thing. I don't know if I can't see the clip. I can't see the video. I don't know the full context, but I do know poll watchers are allowed to be at the polls. They just can't electioneer and influence voters to vote one way or the other.
Right.
They can't interfere with voters. They can't, they can't cast their ballots for them or anything while they're there. That's not allowed. But it sounds like they're just object. I mean, I think I heard in the video from the audio standpoint that they wanted specifically Trump, poll watchers removed from the room, which doesn't really make sense to me.
No, it doesn't. All Republican poll watchers leave the room.
Why? I mean, that should be questioned immediately. I think there's a legitimate, valid question there. I would be saying that if they said all Democrat or Biden poll watchers leave the room immediately. Like, why? Why should they leave the room if they're not actually engaging in any kind of violation of the rules?
I mean,
I don't know if these people were in violation of the rules, and if they were, I think the polling place in particular and those calling for this need to be clear as to what violations they may have engaged in for their removal to be justified. Yeah. So from my understanding, they're allowed to be there. They just can't violate certain things. And if they weren't violating anything, there's no reason for them to be removed. But if they were, those reasons that they were removed need to be specified so that we can determine whether or not that was the correct decision to make.
Exactly.
Something tells me it probably wasn't.
No. We got another video from Project Veritas on BitChute. Apparently, this was probably taken down off of YouTube, so it's on BitChute. And I'm also on BitChute. If you guys want to follow me on BitChute, just look for the Crack Shot Radio Show. That's the channel on the BitChutes. So I'm such a whore. So let me.
You know what? You got to do it now because they're kicking us off Facebook. They're kicking us off everything.
Yeah.
Got to be. You may as well promote what you got just because got it. People are lucky they can listen to us now. What if they can't in the future?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you play the video, but I had to point that out.
Yeah. So here it goes. This is, what's the name of this clip? Sorry, the name of this clip is Michigan UPS whistleblower details directive from superiors to backdate late mail-in ballots in November. So here we go.
Tell us where you work.
I work in the Traverse City Post Office, more specifically the Barlow branch.
Your boss told you and your colleagues something that shocked you this morning. What was it?
We were issued a directive this morning to collect any ballots we find in mailboxes, collection boxes, just outgoing mail in general, separate them at the end of the day so that they could hand stamp them with the previous day's date. Today is November 4th, for clarification.
Who is your boss, and what is his title?
Jonathan would be a direct supervisor, yes. As of right now, he is the opening supervisor for the Barlow Branch Post Office. So and this is anecdotal, carrier down at another office said they watched the postmaster doing it. If it were just a typical day, it would be clerks doing it up at the distribution center.
So 8 p.m. election day, November 3rd. The Court of Appeals ruled ballots have to be received by that time. And what were you told?
To separate them today so they could mark them with yesterday's date and send them through the express system to wherever they needed to go.
This appears to be an attempt to circumvent Michigan law and allow late votes. And you said there was a hamper where letter carriers were supposed to leave their ballots. Where are the ballots now?
They were putting them into express bags to go to the distribution center. In regards to a hamper, there was a standard hamper that all letter mail is supposed to go to, and they had a tub next to it that we were supposed to put any ballots collected today into.
Yes. What made you come forward?
That's sketchy. I don't like sketchy. It screams corruption. Also, knowing the post office's leanings politically, it didn't seem quite right.
What is your message to other postal workers who see things like this?
Report it. How are we supposed to have any integrity in this country if we are just going to let things slide based on a scaling issue?
Are you afraid of retaliation against you?
I've had whistleblower policies backfire on me in the past, so yes.
We'll have to reach out to Jonathan Clark for comment. Hey, is this Jonathan?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a reporter with Project Veritas, James O'Keefe here, and I have information that you guys have been stamping ballots with the previous date, November 3rd. He just hung up the phone on me. He just hung up the phone on me.
Yep.
I'm not really shocked. I mean,
I'm here inside the Broward County facility in Florida.
Whoops.
I don't know if you're going to play more.
No, I wasn't. That was it.
I was going to revisit the earlier point I made regarding the mail that I was supposed to receive that I never received. I'm pretty sure on the envelope, although I could be wrong, I think it says Board of Elections Republican Party, because I'm registered as a Republican for the party for the Board of Elections. Now, the post office where I'm from, it used to be more local workers, including the people who run it. Now it's changed over the years. I think that there's a policy within the post office to promote like an affirmative action agenda, because there's a lot of out-of-town people, and I noticed that they've I don't mean to come off as sounding racist, but I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of African-American postal workers now working in the Postal Service that aren't even from the community. Like, I don't even know where these people live. Like, the old postal workers, I knew where they lived. They were part of the community, knew who they were. But these people, we don't know who they are. In some cases, they don't even wear, like, work uniforms. They just... It's kind of like, I don't know what's going on at the post office, but it doesn't look positive. And I know the one guy that's currently, I guess, in charge of, like, everybody, I heard he's not a very pleasant person to deal with. He's very miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that, he's not voting Trump.
No.
So I think there's stuff going on at the post office, and this video is further confirming that there might be something going on. And I'm not really shocked by any of this. And again, I don't want to come off to sounding as racist. I don't care if they're African-American workers, but I noticed that the policy seems that they're purposely trying to place people in postal districts that aren't from the community. Because I've never seen any of these people actually being part of members of the community here. I don't see where they live. I don't even know who they are, but they're delivering our mail. And that's not to say you can't be somebody from out of town and deliver your mail, but I noticed the post office it seems to be pushing a lot of that, where they're putting people in They're not really from the communities that they work in. I think it would make more sense to have people who are locally in the community work there.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least they know the streets, they know the houses, they know the people. They'll ensure mail gets there. I mean, when I was working at EPS, I did, seasonally, I would deliver packages in the local community.
Right.
And the help, the truck driver, I would work with them. And they would, I would actually be a great help to the truck driver, who in that case got to be assigned to the community. They got to become part of the community. Everyone knew who they were, and they knew who I was. So we were able to get packages done efficiently.
Yeah.
But I noticed the post office is that, there's definitely something going on at the post office that I'm sure they have the critical race theory training stuff going on. I'm sure there's a lot of these provisions that are being pushed by the politically correct mob.
Mm-hmm.
So these things should be, questions need to be raised about all this stuff. Because there is stuff going on. And from the videos you're pointing out here, they are messing with, the dates on when these packages are arriving?
Yeah, they're backdating the post dates, so that way it circumvents Michigan law, because...
That right there, regardless, everything you just said, they should be disqualified right off the bat.
Yeah.
And the people that should be upset are the actual voters who cast their ballots. They should be upset with the post office for essentially tampering with their election material and their votes. And they should be pissed at the post office for essentially voiding all of their ballots by tampering with the date as to when it was delivered.
Yeah. We got a comment here. Let me share the screen. We got over here in the Spreaker chat room. We got DJT, Donald J. Trump. He commented, "I won, goddammit. Not going to steal what is mine." So yeah, if you guys are listening on the Spreaker chat, or if however you're watching or listening to this podcast, please smack that like button for the love of God. Please tell your friends and family to listen to the stream or watch the stream. Subscribe to the Crotch Shot Radio Show on iTunes, Google Play Podcast, Spreaker. Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio. Damn, where else am I on? Let's show.
Where else have you been banned from yet?
Yeah, stuff I have. Yeah,
you gotta ask.
Yeah, where the fuck am I? All right, you guys could Savin. You guys could Spotify. Oh yeah, I'm on Spotify. I'm also on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. I'm on Mixcloud, Podtail.com. Of course, I said TuneIn Radio, Player FM, Google Podcasts, Deezer. Of course, iTunes and whatever. Sir, many ways to listen to the show. Subscribe and enjoy. If you want to help support the show, I go to tinyurl.com/LouisB, and it'll take you to Amazon, and you could shop using Amazon under my link. And the prices don't change. It's just I just get credit for the sale. So that's tinyurl.com/LouisB. So we got also okay. So let's get back to we got some other articles before we close out the show. Trump, I'm winning by large margins, and everything just stops getting counted. President Trump appeared in the East Room around 3 a.m. on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, to express his disgust over how the votes just stopped being counted after it looked like he was winning in a number of swing states on his way to securing a second term. Standing before a group of supporters in the White House, Trump listed the states he needs to win, how well he was doing in them, and said we won states, and all of a sudden, what happened to the election? It's off. All of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win the election. Frankly, we did win the election. Trump, in fact, this reminds me of what he said. They asked him if you lost the election, would you concede? He said no, because only if I lost fair and square, I'd fight. And this is the thing. They don't want this man fighting, because if he fights...
They've been saying since day one that he needs to concede the election.
Yeah.
No matter what. And now they're actually, from what it sounds like, not counting votes.
No.
For Donald Trump. For whatever reason. Now, I understand if, like, you're in a district and you got through 95% of the ballots and your opponent's, like, I don't know, like 120,000 votes ahead. I understand maybe at that point it's probably not worth counting the rest of the votes, because you wouldn't have mathematically enough votes to make a difference, although that sounds bad too. I mean, every vote should count.
Yeah.
But regardless, even if there wasn't enough votes, they probably should count them. Just because we should know what the final tally is on how many votes. Assuming that they've been cast during the day of election. We're not talking a week later. Talking the day of the election, or even, maybe if they were sent in earlier. I'll even accept that. But the thing is, like, some of these districts, Arizona, they called it for Biden before they even finished counting all the, properly counting the votes. And what state was it that I think it was Iowa or whatever, where Trump had like 91% of the vote and like Biden had like less than 10%.
Yeah.
I forget what state it was, but I mean, obviously that state, it's clear that Trump won that state, whatever that state was.
Yeah.
I mean, if he got like overwhelming majority of the votes. But if they're stopping the count before, there's still reason to assume that the election's not over, and the actual candidate hasn't, conceded at their own voluntary discretion, those votes should be counted. They shouldn't stop counting the votes.
Exactly.
How could they even justify that?
I don't know. There is no justification. The only justification is that they don't want Trump to win, and they have no legit way on doing that other than stealing it. And they've been trying to steal it, and now they're trying to get away with this. And luckily, Trump is actually fighting, and there has to be a way for each and every one of us to help him fight, because the only way he's going to win is if we become the United, the MAGA warriors, the MAGA soldiers, and go out there and like, no, fuck that bullshit. You're fucking recounting. You're it's like a multi-pronged attack of bullshit. For you got the Sharpies, you got the U.S. Postal Service backdating shit, you got people actually burning and destroying ballots, you got all these mail-in ballots.
Ditches.
Like it's
they're they're finding them filled like in rooms where nobody's looked at the mail for a week.
Yeah,
they're all sorts of like what is going on type activity here.
Like I'm glad I stood online and cast my ballot the old-fashioned way. I wasn't gonna fucking do a mail-in shit, especially when weeks before they were discovering that there was a way to identify who were the Republican ballots. There was like a serial number with an R and a D. It's like. It wasn't even secret. You could just, this has an R. Thank you for wasting paper.
And the funny thing is, they don't even know whether or not that these people actually voted a certain way just because of their political affiliation. Yeah. They could have been a Democrat voting for Trump.
Yeah.
They could have been a Republican voting for Biden. I'm sure that's possible too.
Yeah.
or if maybe Joe Jorgensen of the Libertarian Party, or maybe some other alternative. They don't know who these people are voting for, but they all they know is the affiliation of the party. So for them to destroy the ballots, if that be the case, it sounds like it probably was.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane to me. That they just assume automatically that they're going to do that. Like for instance, when I see people walk into the polling station on the computer screen that from what I was working at, we do see the political affiliation each voter has, whether Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever.
Yeah.
We do see that information, but just because we see that information, we don't see how they're voting. You can only assume how they're voting. So, I mean, for these people at the post office to just discard votes because they assume the party of the people are voting for, that is a crime. Certainly, I'm pretty sure it's a criminal. They could be criminally charged. They are caught, but it is, regardless of whether it is or isn't, that is a crime. Crime on freedom.
Mm-hmm.
To allow for something like that to take place. And this is absolutely. It's just more and more of these articles you're reading and the points you're presenting. We knew long ago that we were going to possibly see a lot of these things. And the other point I want to make, I feel like the Democrats have made voting trivial.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is they're not making it where, think about it. You went in a line, you went and voted in person. I understand people are busy in their lives. Sometimes they don't have the ability to go vote specifically on a certain date because, maybe they can't get off of work, which in itself is a crime, if you ask me. Or they don't have the means to get there. I get it. Mm-hmm. We want to make it easy for people to be able to vote. But I feel like the Democrats are trivializing voting when we're lucky that we have the right to vote in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Considering the history that led up to where we are today. People, think about the American Revolution. These people didn't have the right to vote on who their king would be. They had no right to even dare speak of anything alternative to King George III. They didn't have voting rights. In fact, these people walked in trails of blood at the bearing of their own feet in snow patches to desperately to fight for freedom, to create a nation for themselves. And, it's been a rough ride throughout the history of this country because there were certain population demographics who didn't really express the right to vote. But they all changed over time when people allowed those individuals to vote. So, women at one point couldn't vote. Now they can. People who weren't landowners couldn't vote. I understand the argument of why they made it so landowners would be the people that could vote, whereas the other people couldn't because they had vested interest in whatever politics were decided during that day. Whereas now it's become trivialized. They made it so, thoughtless that they're telling the public, oh, you don't even have to show up to the poll. We're going to give you the ballot at your house. You're going to fill it out, even though you don't know how to properly fill it out. You just mail it in. You don't have to go take a moment out of your day to go fight for what you believe in. We're going to make it so easy that there's absolutely zero thought whatsoever in, voting. And in fact, the Democrats wanted to change the voting age to 16.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you look at these average 16-year-olds, I don't think they understand how the world even functions.
No, they really don't.
How to vote. They don't even understand that. Look at the voting. Somebody who's voting needs to have at least some kind of philosophical basis on what exactly, a scale to determine a good candidate to be. For instance, when I go to vote, I base my voting on who I believe the best candidate's going to be to protect and preserve not only this republic, but the liberties that we are afforded in the Bill of Rights. And any candidate who can't do that is not worthy of my vote.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand by that philosophy of freedom and, you know, the protection of our country, the insurance that the working class have an economic future. And if certain candidates can't meet that criteria, they're not afforded my vote. And a lot of people who vote don't have any kind of philosophical foundation and will vote for the most meaningless of reasons because they like the color of the T-shirt that a candidate was wearing or something obscene like that. And they want to be able to just trivialize voting where that's what it amounts to. I didn't like how offensive that person was. I don't understand why they're offensive. I didn't like them. And then people who have they're low information voters. That's the best way to describe them. They don't have enough information. And the Democrats want to take advantage of the fact that there are so many people who are misinformed or uninformed. And they want to trivialize the voting process so they can exploit those people.
Yeah.
And what better way to do it than to have mail-in ballots where anybody could just mail it back? And, you know, apparently they want to set it up where you don't even need to verify if these people are even either alive or legitimately those people.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to me.
Let's fire off some articles and
fire some articles off, and I think we should talk about solutions afterwards.
Yeah. I'm gonna go real fast. I'm just gonna read these final articles here. Arizona voters file lawsuit to restore their ballots canceled over Sharpies. Arizona voters who claimed their ballots were canceled because they were asked to use Sharpie markers to fill them out have filed a lawsuit demanding their ballots be restored. A lawsuit filed on Wednesday by a public interest legal foundation, PILF, is requesting a restoration of ballots for voters who were told to fill out their ballots using Sharpie markers, but subsequently had those ballots canceled. Specifically, the lawsuit details the case of Maricopa County, Arizona, resident Lori Aguilera, who was given a Sharpie marker to fill out her ballot on Election Day. State officials have previously warned against felt-tip writing utensils for filling out ballots. The lawsuit states that Aguilera was alarmed when the ink of the Sharpie started to bleed onto the other side of her ballot, but despite that was told to feed the ballot through the counting machine. Who the fuck is calling me? Oops, hold on. I'm getting a call. I am still on the show. Yeah, I'm still on the show.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll call you after. All right. So.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. Fuck it.
Fuck it. We'll do it. Live radio, everybody.
Well, I gotta say this real quick regarding the article. In that case, since those people were denied the right to actually cast their ballots in a proper way, I think they should be provided the right to re-vote in that circumstance because they were provided inadequate tools that denied them the right to have their ballots properly casted. So if those people want to re-vote, I think the exceptions to the rules should be provided to those people, regardless of whether they're in favor of Biden or Trump.
Yeah.
That I will say.
I mean, with that being said, I mean, like if I could reiterate, the caller, like louder with Crowder this morning, or Morning Mug Club, or what was it called? The morning show he does. And they were confiscating people's pens. Like
that is insane. That I think none of those people could even. They should be just the people working that poll should, if they directly influence this, they should absolutely never work a poll again. Now, if they're innocent as well, due to whoever made the decision on this should be thrown out of the board of elections. And they should never work an election again because they should have known better. Now, the poll workers, I don't know, maybe blame is to go around to them as well. Or maybe they're innocent bystanders but they should have known better, and hopefully they will in the future. But as far as those people, they should be provided an opportunity to redo the vote, only in this circumstance, only because the fact that they weren't provided adequate tools to cast their ballots when it was actually the day of voting. That I would be okay with that being done.
Right.
Beyond this mail-in ballots that we don't even have postmarks on. That's a different story. But this, let them vote again.
Right.
Because they weren't allowed to properly cast their votes the first time.
So,
they showed up to vote.
Yeah.
They should have that right.
Yeah,
but anyway, I'll let you
exactly.
fire for the other articles.
Yeah, this is the last article I'm going to read tonight, and then we'll just get into some solutions, and then we will say good night. I'm not doing a 6-hour jam.
Well, you don't want to be like Dan from the internet who did like an 7 or 8 hour show.
Yeah, fuck him.
Telling us how I just saw on my YouTube feed that he was doing it like a 7 or 8 hour show
my question
on
is,
the election coverage. I can only imagine how entertaining that would be to watch this guy for 7, 8 hours talk about nonsense.
Like, my question is, why are these guys such queebs? And I can't use the real word, but like the fascist.
Oh, I should have seen how he was dressed.
Honestly,
he looked very colorful.
Bunch of it was like a queeb and quay fucking discussion there. Like, I don't know which one. I would say Dan from the internet was more of a queeb, and Spencer Sunshine was more of a quay. It's like, honestly, you fucking sissies. Anyways, back to this article. Pennsylvania election officials rattled after Trump campaign requests names of ballot transporters and storage locations. This is from Zero Hedge. Pennsylvania election officials rattled after Trump campaign requests the names of ballot transporters and storage locations. Elections officials in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, were rattled last week after a Trump campaign aide requested highly specific details about the county's ballot security, according to the Sentinel. Cumberland County Bureau of Elections Director Bethany Salazario demonstrate. There's a lot of spics. How the new, I could say that because
a lot of brown complexion there.
Yes, a lot of brown, yeah. So they're stealing the votes. They're buying the votes. They're freaking preventing the votes. What the fuck?
It's amazing what's happening. They give a bad name to all the patriotic folk who just happen to have like a brownish complexion on their skin.
Yeah, it's like, you're fucking.
Look at all the Cubans that voted against the Biden and over in Florida.
Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, he did. And here's the thing that doesn't make sense. Trump did better in many of the counties. He did better in 2020 than he did in 2016, which makes it less sense that he's losing. Because it's like, how's that
actually in Texas he beat out counties that voted Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. That's the point. We'll talk more on that too.
Yeah.
When we close out.
Yeah.
Because I don't want, we talked a lot about how there's a lot of negative stuff going on so far, but there's some positive too. Well, I'll let you finish the article.
Yeah. A Tuesday email from Trump aide Leslie O'Shaughnessy, who between hiding her Lucky Charms, requested the names of people. I'm sorry, transporting ballots from voting machines once polls were closed. The names of the people with access to the ballots and locations where ballots are stored, including room numbers. County Commissioner Gary Eichenberger called the request intrusive and suggested that it might disrupt the election process in the county of 253,000 residents. It's almost kind of chilling, the sort of data they wanted us to provide, said Eichenberger. This is basically the whole security plan. We've never received a request of this detail, and I find it troubling that once, get fucked, and of the interested parties in the election outcome feels they have the right to be right to the information that obviously could jeopardize the security of the ballot. Get fucked. Like, honestly, you know what? Like, he probably sensed some bullshit was going to happen, and he wanted to try to prevent as much bullshit from happening as possible.
It's just if it were the other way around, it would justify it.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter to these people. They're obviously not interested in facts or truth or doing things in a fair and correct way. They nothing about what they've changed the rules. The question of constitutionality to all this is really properly being raised. None of this stuff may actually be constitutional, what they're doing.
No.
And I think Trump might have a case here to, call them out, and at least legally in the courts.
Yeah.
As he should. I mean, he should contest every minute of this. I mean, especially since there's premeditated effort by media, the Democratic Party, very, call them activists, put quotes on that. I don't know what the heck you call them other than maybe terrorists, because they're trying to terrorize the public.
Right.
That's the other thing. Speaking of terrorists, Antifa, they're putting out flyers saying that they're going to basically go crazy no matter who wins. So this isn't even about Trump to them, from about the far left. This is about them wanting to destroy America, and they're actually coming out and admitting it. They're going to be rallying over at Union Square, I think, every Wednesday until like the January 20th or something. So, yeah, so they said, we don't care who it is, we want to get rid of the regime altogether, America. And they even tell us in their chant, no USA at all. So it's never been about Trump for these people. It's been about the destruction of America, and that's clear.
Yeah.
So, these people, the integrity is beyond questionable for them. But what can we do as solutions to all this? I mean, we've read some pretty damaging articles. We point out, I like I said earlier, people should watch the documentary Hacking Democracy.
Lawsuits.
How the Diebold machines were being tampered with in the software. You can actually mix the votes up that way. And even people at the Board of Election wouldn't even know it. I know that's a whole other subject. I have to emphasize that people should look into that, since we are talking about elections.
Yeah.
So what are solutions that we can do in this endeavor?
I mean,
to preserve and protect our country? There's plenty of them, and we can talk about a few here.
Yeah, I mean, one major one. We just read lawsuits. You sue your, like, if you feel like your rights have been violated, sue, demand. Like,
if you have the means to sue, and obviously the president and people running for office are going to have the means to sue.
Yeah.
They do have money in their treasure chest to fight back. If there is any disputed question, there should be lawsuit, litigation efforts to ensure the other side does the right thing.
Right.
I mean, even the threat of lawsuit could, cause somebody to, start playing ball the correct way.
Yeah.
Because that, they could end up a whole mess in court.
Oh, yeah.
So,
totally.
litigations are definitely key.
Mm-hmm.
And, that, at least when it comes to, if you're running for office, I think that's necessary. Now, if you're not running for office and you're just regular old, you working your 9-to-5 job and you're not running for office and you're not, don't have a war chest of money, what can you do? Well, if you have the time, you should do what I did. You should apply for the Board of Elections poll working position.
Mm-hmm.
You should go work the polls. I know it's a long day from 5:20 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night, but if you have the time and you're off, they do pay you to work.
Yeah.
And you'll also get to see directly how our voting process is conducted.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get to find out what's going on with the people showing up. You'll see if they're committing fraud. And you'll see if the people counting your votes, so to speak, or at least working at the polls, are themselves engaging in fraud. What better way to safeguard the republic as a guardian than to actually work on the forefront of where votes are being casted?
Right.
Like being a poll worker, I got to see at the end of the night how many people actually came in and voted at that specific station.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of that station, we had 333 votes casted by people. And this, I can tell you the numbers, at least from what we counted from Trump and Biden, out of the voters. We got, for Trump, 193 votes out of 333. And for Biden, we got 132 votes out of a cast of 333. And I got to see that directly in person. I also got to see all the different people showing up in the demographics. So I may not know how they voted, but I got to see who was coming in to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, you're seeing exactly what's going on. You're making sure that the polls are running the way they're supposed to run, and that you don't end up with Sharpies being handed out to the people. You make sure that the proper pens are given out. You make sure that these people are casting their ballots. You make sure that the other side is not tampering with machines and tampering with people's votes or electioneering. So you want to talk about a solution? That's a solution right there that I came up with. I figured, you know what? Why is all this going on?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just go and work the polls and make sure that this doesn't happen? So if everybody who is in favor of liberty chose to go work the polls on election day, instead of saying the votes don't count and not do any voting at all, maybe we could make sure that our republic is protected. Maybe we could make sure that the votes do matter and are counted.
Mm-hmm.
Because we would know that they're not being tampered with at that point,
Right.
at least not on the surface.
Right.
And because we would see something and we would know what's going on. So that's a major solution right there.
Yeah.
Be a poll watcher, be a poll worker, make sure that our elections are fair and there's no intimidation going on by either side. And, you know, that's a solution I put forth that I think other people, especially, you know, activists in our circles, should exercise. In my opinion, hey, I provide a solution right there.
Right.
You know, I don't just complain. I know there's a lot of horrible things going on, but hey, what better way than to find out what's going on directly by going there yourself, if you have the ability to do it.
Right, right.
So.
All right. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, some more bad news. They're setting up. There's riots going on in Greenwich Village.
Oh, what a shock!
Yeah, yeah. They're setting.
What I said out Antifa earlier.
Yeah. Their sources say more than a dozen protesters, have been arrested after setting fires and clashing with police in Greenwich Village here in Manhattan. Oh man, the gays are gonna have to feng shui that shit again.
Well, think about this. These people are protesting in Greenwich Village. They're destroying, you know, where the gays hang out, LGBT people hang out.
Yeah.
Those people should be pissed at them.
Yeah.
destroying their area.
And honestly, Greenwich Village is a very liberal area. Why are you fucking? You're fucking up your own base.
So the supposed base, the people they supposedly care for, because we're all evil people that don't care for anybody. But then they care for those people, which is why they're tearing their community up.
Yeah,
that's great. And like I said earlier, Antifa and these people, they don't care who was elected president. They're going to do this anyway. So that should be a message to people moderately of the left, or rational, sane people on the left, or just people that are good-hearted. That these are insincere people that they don't care about the outcome of the election. They want to destroy everything. They're a destructive force. They're not your allies. They're not your friends. And people got to wake up to that fact. This should be evidence that to anybody who actually cares about anything of value.
What's with the fucking bicycles at this point? Like, honestly, I don't understand that with the riot police. When there's a riot, okay, well, we can't use guns. Like, no, dumbass. This is the time you use the fucking... Bring out the heavy artillery. Like, fuck this shit. At this point, fuck this shit.
At this point, I think it's clear that it's not about Trump anymore. It never really was.
No.
Trump has just been the excuse and the vehicle for them to justify what their ultimate scheme of things is, which is to destroy this country. They're not concerned Trump's a fascist. They know Trump's not a fascist. They use that as the specter of fascism as a ghost, so they can chase a phantom menace around and destroy the country in the process. I mean, that's what really is going on. It's a phantom menace, and not really destroying anything. The only thing they're destroying is the country.
And this cop does not know how to use a fucking fire extinguisher. Holy crap!
What, the cops?
Yeah, no, they're trying to put out the fucking fires that they set. And first of all, as someone that has to be trained in fire safety, with my current, you aim for the base of the fire. You look. I know you're. Forget it. I'm not gonna be like you. Aim for the base of the fire. You pull. You aim for you go under, and then you sweep from side to side.
Well, I hate to say it, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they're training their officers well in New York City, because for not just that, but even firearms handling. And I'm sure you remember that case where that police officer fired his gun off and shot everything but the perpetrator who tried to kill his ex-boss. I'm sure you remember that from a couple years ago.
Yeah. What the shootout that happened by Times Square?
It might have been something like that. Yeah, this disgruntled employee found his boss. I think he tried killing him. And cop pulled out his gun and fired at everything except the guy that he was trying to neutralize. I think he even hit other people, or he hit. It's like terrible training they're providing these officers. I feel bad for the officers who don't know how to properly use their firearms.
Ballots have been turned in with no names on them.
Voter registration, there's no name attached to them. And what are they doing with those?
Oops. And of course, buffering.
Wait, they're casting ballots with no names attached?
Yep.
So Krusty the Clown and the Sideshow Bob are sending their ballots?
And Mrs. Krabappel, who died.
Yeah. So, I mean, what? This is why I said earlier, become a poll worker. Become somebody part of it. Join the board of elections. Find out how our elections are being handled, because this is insane. Why should we assume that these people are doing the right thing if we don't know for sure they actually are? If we're not there in person ourselves. I went to go find out ourselves. Thankfully, at least in the district that I work, granted there's a lot of corruption, at the political level here.
Yeah.
At least when it comes to the poll workers, they're not messing with the elections. Nothing that I have seen. And they're all on the level. They're all regular people. And we do our job. And we need to make sure that's the case everywhere. And the only way you're going to do that is if you get involved. Make sure that these elections aren't being tampered with.
Yeah.
By any party. I don't care who it is. Obviously the election's not over with Trump. And here's the other positive things we should mention.
Yeah.
One thing, the media was, all these polls was proven they don't know what they're talking about. They have no credibility. They have zero credibility, in fact. They got everything wrong with the polls. They were making it sound like the Democrats were going to sweep up seats in the House and that the Senate was going to get taken over and Trump was going to lose. We don't know if Trump won or lost yet.
Yeah.
But what we do know is the Democrats did not sweep the House. In fact, they lost congressional seats. The Republicans may not have gained the House, but they didn't lose anything out of it either.
Yeah, we got
they
some
gained seats.
We got some comments in the chat room, this was a joke this was a thing that you were saying that was making me kind of laugh. You kept saying "work the polls," Gabe.
Yeah, I know. Everyone makes fun of that, but hey, you gotta work the polls, man.
You gotta work the polls. Dan Van Meter goes, "Howdy, work them polls like a stripper named Portia."
Yeah, I mean, you gotta work for you want to make sure things are good. You gotta work for it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, polls. I mean. I know it's a funny joke. You're right. I don't have a better saying for it, but that's they are polls and we are working.
Yep.
Them, But again, like I said, on a positive note,
private dancer, a dancer for money.
On a positive note, Louis, the media was shown that they had no credibility. They got the polls wrong. Everything they said that was going to happen basically didn't happen, with the exception of the results of the presidency. We haven't found that out yet, so they might be wrong about that too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was proven to be completely. Nobody should ever trust these people, as long as the same people are working these jobs. Like all these pollsters, they should be fired. All these commentators, these people who work for the established core media.
Yeah,
they should all be given their pink slips because they're not worth anything. Nothing they said was accurate. So let them go. We'll get rid of them. That's positive right there. We proved that these people have no credibility, and that alternative media actually has more credibility than they are, because we have a tendency to be much more accurate than they are on so many scales and levels. So that's positive. We gained some seats. Which is good. Let's say Trump loses the presidency, but we still maintain the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
We can safeguard against anything Biden tries to ram through the House, as long as the rhinos and the Senate don't join the forces of evil here, so to speak.
Right.
So we gotta make sure of that. So at least we know that as long as the Senate stays in our position, or possession, so to speak, the people.
Mm-hmm.
They can't ram things through like they would if they had everything.
Right.
So that's something we proved right there. There's a lot of positive. I mean, it looks like Trump's actually. Think about this. Like I said earlier, Trump is winning over counties that Hillary Clinton won.
Yeah.
Locations the Democrats ran for in the 2018 election. They're going back in the hands of the Republicans because they sold out to people.
Mm-hmm.
They acted like they were moderate Democrats, and they supported impeachment. And all this crap.
That should be the litmus test of how of proof that there is corruption going on. Proof that the Democrats are trying to seal it. Because how can he not be winning by huge numbers if he is winning back counties that Hillary won back in 2016? It makes no sense. It makes zero sense.
There's more voter turnout that came out in favor. Trump actually got more people to come out this time than he did last time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also evidence that, he boosted up numbers. At one point it looked like he even had the popular vote. I don't know. I don't think he still has that popular vote at the moment, but it looks like he did. And here's the other point I want to bring up. Let's just say that Trump does get the popular vote, but Biden gets the electoral college votes.
Yeah.
Are these people who screamed about, Trump not being popular amongst the people, are they going to come out in favor of him being president?
No, of course
instead
not.
of the electoral college vote?
Of course not.
Of course not. Indeed, we know that that's going to be the case. They're going to be in favor of the electoral college, just because this guy got in. Doesn't matter. They don't care about being. The only thing they're consistent about being is corrupted. They don't care about the facts or consistency of like some kind of standards. So I mean, there's so many actual positives in this. Even if we don't get everything that we're looking for, we didn't lose everything either.
Yeah,
it wasn't a total loss. And we might actually be able to cut even to some extent if we don't actually gain the presidency.
Right.
So there are some safety nets here. We're not totally screwed. We would be if the Democrats took everything. But again, the election's still going on. Some of it's speculation right now. But, the public needs to contest all this. We need to make sure that the Democrats and the far left doesn't try to manipulate this election to screw the American people out of their liberties. Because we know that they're going to damn well try to do that. And because they've been trying to damn well try to do that the entire time. That much can definitely be confirmed. So, those are things we need to keep in mind. We'll keep watching this election, obviously. And, maybe it'll end at the end of this week, or maybe it'll end in, December. Who knows? Maybe it'll still go on in January.
Yeah.
Depends how long the courts are tied up.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's keep.
I mean, it might be ruled into the Supreme Court. That's the other positive thing I want to mention too, Louis.
Oh yeah.
We have 3 justices in the Supreme Court who are not wacky leftists, so we might actually be able to protect the constitutionality of what's real and make sure that this doesn't totally screw us.
Right.
With these mail-in ballots and everything. We might be okay with that. It might be decided by them. Of course, the left will be like, oh, Trump manipulated the election because he had all these people in there. No, he wasn't the one manipulating the election. He wasn't the one changing the rules. You guys were. And thankfully, he was able to have Supreme Court justices that hopefully will look at the constitutionality of all this.
Yep.
And hopefully they'll rule in the correct direction.
Let's roll.
Yes.
All right. So I'd like to thank Gabe for coming on and joining me. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. And, yeah. So, Gabe, this is for you.
You don't think of them at all. You keep your mind on the money. Keeping your eyes on the wall. I'm your private dancer, a dancer for money. Do what you want me to do. I'm your private dancer, a dancer for money. And any old music will do.
All right.
Better work them polls.
Work them fucking polls. That's how
you win. Because if we don't, somebody else will be working us like horse.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, just saying.
Yeah, that's... so... It was like I wanted to call you out on that so bad. So I'm glad somebody else did.
It is what it is,
Work them damn polls.
It's for a lack of better saying. I mean, in all seriousness, people need to, work the polls. We don't have the Democratic whores work us like,
right. Right. So, all right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to the Crotch Shot Radio Show. Please like, comment, subscribe, however you are listening or watching this show. Please tell your friends, family, your priest, your preschool teacher, your first kiss, your favorite prostitute about the Crotch Shot Radio Show. And as always, from my house to your house, mahalo.
That's the end of my show. Donk.
The more you might let me become a man for sure. I might express one concern, seize an issue all day and every turn. What's the next step? The latest hole in my life. What's next for me to learn? Now
night, everyone.